Hi there. Today I want to talk about a quick topic that is kind of exciting, I guess, and it's about sales. Actually, one more time. I want to talk about three different factors that actually really determine how high the chances are that you will actually close something, or sell something to somebody, and that are more like factors that are like just around the meeting. So not so much about what you do in the meeting, but actually the factors that will determine how um, high the chances are that that person will really buy. And then I have a bonus one that I want to talk about that is actually, I think, the most important one anyway. But yeah, I kind of like want to throw it in as a bonus because you can't really control that last one. First of all, why can I talk about this? I sold a lot of different things in my life. I sold real estate, I sold investment opportunities, I sold insurance, I sold to clients, I sold websites, I sold online services, I sold online coaches, I sold shares for my startups and to investors. And yeah, a lot of that stuff was pretty high ticket. So we are talking about between like 10, 15,000 and hundreds of thousands. So I kind of like got a couple of learnings from actually the sales meetings that I did, and I want to share the top three plus the one like very important bonus one as well. The first one is actually that it's like a good question how warm actually the lead is that you have. Of course, it's kind of obvious, but I really want to give you some cool tactics as well that are a little bit uncommon, I guess, and to make things easier. I guess it's kind of clear that if you have a warm lead, the chances that you will actually be able to work with that person or that he will be willing to listen to you or whatever is kind of, I think, clear. But there's another point that I really want to point out, and that is actually it can be also very interesting in how close somebody that is referring to like that potential client or potential investor or whatever you want it to be, how close they are. So what do I mean with this? I actually mean that I had a couple of people over like the time of my businesses that were actually working with me, and they had a big network of actually people that were pretty warm. So I didn't know these people at all before, but I got introduced, and that converted pretty well, pretty fast. The first one was actually somebody that helped me with investors. I was kind of like always searching for investors on my own or did it over networking. But at some point, I found a guy that was actually willing to help me find investors. And he came in, and I agreed with him on terms, and then he started to like bring investors in, and I think he brought into my company around close to €1 million just from his network. And what I just want to point out is that for many of these people, I didn't even had a meeting with them or a sales call. But just the fact that they were so close to him and they trusted him, that really made a lot of the difference. Sometimes it was that he was talking to them, then they came in, they talked quickly to me, we closed them. Sometimes it was even just like over an email. Sometimes it was a 5 minute call, and so on. And it really helped actually getting it done. Another one was where I was actually searching for like another like very big investors, and I also had a guy that was introducing me, and I tried for I think 2 years to get meetings with bigger investors, like we're talking about millions. It was pretty hard to get into the door. I had a couple of meetings, but it was not that great. But then suddenly I just had a meeting, and yeah, we had 3 meetings, and then basically the CEO said, "Yeah, we want to invest." So that was pretty cool, and I had the same for actually very big brands. Um, that I was working with. So I had another guy that was also helping me actually getting to their brands, and I talked to like very high CEOs pretty fast. So you can leverage this a little bit. Maybe you know somebody in your network that you know for a fact is a very big networker. So maybe he can help you and actually get in touch with more and more people. At least for me, it worked pretty well. Yeah, so the second point on my list on what are the most like three most important factors in a meeting are actually how much are you in love with your product? And that's really kind of, I guess, obvious. And that's also why it like kind of like works so well when the CEO is selling by themselves their product and not the kind of like salespeople in the team, because you most of the time really love the company that you're doing. So I'm not only talking about love, but I'm also talking about how much are you actually behind your product. Like how much do you think your product will work? Um, how sure are you that it will work? Like if you are not sure by yourself, it will be pretty hard to convince somebody else to do it. And the best salespeople in companies, they usually really like just the product by themselves, that they're actually selling, and they think it's an awesome product and it's the best product. So that is really helpful, and you should like kind of like be able to do this. And if you have a sales team, uh, maybe you should like introduce them a little bit more why your product is so great, and so on. That can really help. So the last of 3 points is actually how well can you answer to any kind of questions that the person on the other side on the table has. So for most of the meetings where I was able to close people, I was able to give them a very good answer to every single question that they have. And sometimes it's really bad because you are like doing a meeting and you are doing 99% of all the questions perfectly, and then there's one question and you are not that super sure, and sometimes that's already enough to cancel like the whole meeting. And that's why it's so important to actually get practice. That's why it's basically impossible to be a very good salesperson for any kind of like product that you are just starting with, and like close a lot of clients right away. Especially as well why you need to keep going and going if you're a salesperson, especially if you're somebody in real estate and you are starting out and it's a very complex topic, or it can be also in insurance or investment, a very like it can be like very hard questions that people will ask there. And yeah, if you are not prepared and you don't have any answer, of course you can always say, yeah, let me clarify this for you, but yeah, it will damages the trust if you don't exactly know any single answer. But that's at the same time the opportunity why it is actually so easy to get successful in sales on a specific topic over time. Because if you are like in these meetings and you're doing it again and again and again and again, and you are getting more questions and more questions, and then there's some questions you don't know the answer about, but next time you will figure it out and you will know the answer, and then the next meeting will be even like maybe another question that you don't know, and you will figure it out, and sooner or later you will like have answers to every single question that is most common or that like people ask all the time. So that's pretty cool, and can be really helpful. So that's why sticking to something can be very helpful, especially like selling a product. Yeah. So and the other like really last bonus point that I want to talk about is actually I think the most important point that you can actually have when you are doing sales. Um, I guess it even is even. I guess it's even the most important part that you can have in any kind of situation. But as I said, you can't control it. So that's why it's or you at least have to search for it, and it's not something that you can control or prepare for, pretty much. But it is actually how like hungry is the customer to buy. So if somebody really just like don't really needs to do it, it will be not that big kind of a thing for him to actually like get convinced. So it will be more like a fun thing, maybe yes, maybe no. But the chances are not that high. But if somebody really needs something or is really desperate or like really wants, for example, I had this a lot that like some of my investors, they really wanted to invest in a startup, and they never did it before, and they were at a chance in their life where they had a lot of the other investments already, but they never invested in a startup. So they were super interested in trying it out and testing it, and that really helped. Same goes for if you are selling some website to somebody and they know like since years that they need one. Um, yeah, but you were kind of like not able to, um, like he was not able to do it. So you are coming across and letting him know about your service. Chances are very high that he will say, yeah, okay, let's have a meeting, and if everything is good, he will actually do it. So this is called kind of like the advantage of the hungry crowd. So there was a very cool example, um, when actually yeah, I'm taking like away the final part already in the beginning, but there was a very funny story where there was a hot dog stand, and like professor asked his students what actually they think would be the biggest advantage in actually selling hot dogs. And they said a lot of things like having the best price, having the best product, having like making it appeal in a nice way, having the best kind of stand, having the best location, and so on and so on. And the answer at the end was not that it was any of these points, but actually that it was like having the hot dog stand where a hungry crowd is. So that is the most important thing, because if there are 300 people or 500 people, then they all are hungry, and you are the only kind of like hot dog stand around there. Chances that people will buy a lot from you are very high. So, as I said, this is something that is not that easy to control and not that easy to figure out. But especially if you want to um, like get into some specific niche, you can really think about, like when you're doing a business and you want to go in some specific niche, just think about who would kind of like benefit the most or need it the most, like need your service the most right now, because that will actually make things much easier. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that were just like a couple of tips that I like for me were the biggest factors when I was doing these kind of meetings, like sales meetings. And some of them you can control for sure, especially being prepared, practicing, loving your product can be very cool things. And as I said, like really, when you have somebody in your network that actually will be like a very good person, like that has a big network, consider partnering with him. There are even people out there that you can actually pay for networking. So you can pay them some amount per month, and they will actually introduce you to other people. Can be very beneficial. Of course, you need some money for it. It's not that super cheap, but yeah, it can be very beneficial to do that. Yeah. So that's all for today. Wish you the best of day. See you soon.